Hello, this is the Murder Sonnet channel. Today I'm going to review a handlebar swap on a 2005 Buell Blast. As with all my videos, the views and process demonstrated are my personal experience. I am not a professional mechanic or sales representative. Any modifications you do to your bike are at your own risk. This is not a how-to video, and your experience will be different. The words and images in this video are the property of Ever-Changing Studios, all rights reserved. Now that the legal is done, I can proceed with the tale. The logic behind the swap is that the stock bars on the Blast are very tall and narrow. For a rider over, say, 5'4", or one with longer arms, the bars may feel too narrow. These bars are not 1-inch bars like a Harley. I had handlebars from a 1981 Silverwing motorcycle in my shed and decided to put them on the bike. The first thing to do was to clean up the Honda bars. The chrome was shot, so I blasted them and painted them an aluminum color close to the color of the Buell's subframe. Then I bought aftermarket grips. I prefer thinner motocross style grips for my bars. That way I can wear thicker gloves without the steering feeling vague. For this project I needed a set of metric and standard Allen wrenches, 8mm, 10mm, and 14mm wrenches and sockets, wire cutters, needle nose pliers, small drill bits, a hand drill, and zip ties. You may need a razor knife, a widget, and a flashlight as well. Cable lube, solvent-based cleaner, and paper towels are handy as well. I started by cutting the 3 zip ties that held the wires for the controls on both sides of the bars. There's one on this side, one over here, and then one roughly behind the gauge. Then I removed the throttle assembly and the front brake assembly from the bars. I call the Blast my Buellish mistake. See what I did there? Anyway, one nice thing about having so much plastic means no worries about scratching paint or getting brake fluid on paint. With the throttle cables exposed, by the disassembly of the throttle control, I lubed the cables before draping everything off to the side. Then I removed the brake line at the base of the reservoir. I pivoted the fitting in the front upwards, and I was careful not to touch the lever. I moved the brake line out from behind the headlight ear so that I had more line to work with. Depending on the bars you choose, you might not need to do that. The stock grip peeled off the throttle tube without too much drama. I used wire cutters as much as I could rather than razor blades to avoid damaging the plastic throttle tube. I use hair gel or alcohol-based hand sanitizer to mount grips on bars. Sometimes this goes fine, sometimes it's a battle. While I had the assembly open on this thing, I looked at the connectors and checked for corrosion and spider's nests. I also checked the throttle tube for ovaling at the cable mounting points. So by this point, I had the right side controls removed, cleaned up, and laid out of the way. You can see where my brake line comes up here, where it would normally be behind the fork. The left side was not as much fun. Someone, whether a previous owner or an assembly monkey, used glue on the grip on my bike. I spent more time getting the left side grip off the bike than I did the entire rest of the process. Also, this wonderful person glued the grip to the switch, right here, all the way around. Again, I checked and cleaned up the wiring inside the switch once I got it off. The 8mm bolt holding the brake lever perch is made from pot metal, so I used a 6-point socket to remove it. I removed the bolt completely and opened the pinch before trying to slide it off the bars. Before I did that, I removed the bars from the tree, 4 Allen bolts here, using a 1/4 inch Allen key. This is another example of the mixed standard and metric hardware on this bike. The fact that you need both a standard and metric toolbox to work on this bike is infuriating. There are many infuriating things about the Buell Blast, but that's a topic for another video. It suffices to say that I would have to restrain myself from punching in the reproductive organs whoever thought it was a good idea to mix the hardware on this bike. So now the bars are off. I adjusted the wiring and cables to accommodate the new bars. I removed the clutch cable from the lever and rerouted it to be on the outside of the trees. You can see where it comes up here. It runs along the outside of the fork here. It does kind of stick up a little bit, but we'll deal with that later. The reroute of the clutch cable and brake line might be a concern in the long run. Personally, I'll keep an eye on mine for vibrational wear. The clutch lever comes off easily with a 10mm socket and wrench. I lubed the cable before starting reassembly as well. I slid the perch on here, reattached the clutch cable, and then mounted them to the new bars. Then I checked the length of the grip to adjust the positioning of the perch and the left side switch. Before the switch could be mounted, I ground down the little round stay inside the left side switch and the throttle tube housing. The stock bars have holes for these to allow for the little stays. You can see one of them right here in the image. The stock bars have these holes, but I didn't want to tap my bars in case I wanted to adjust things. I used a drill bit in the drill for the grinding. There's a hole in the center of the stay, and I used that as a guide. On the stock bars, not being able to adjust the angle of the controls is another infuriating thing. Bad design, Eric, goddammit. So, once I had the left side of the bar set, I reassembled the right side. I put a touch of lube inside the throttle tube before I mounted it. I sat on the bike for a bit and made engine noises while I tweaked the switch and lever positioning. Then I clamped everything down tight. Chances are I'll need to use thread locker in the spring after riding a bit, but for right now it's okay. Last I used zip ties of my own to secure the wires and cables. I made sure I could move the bars from lock to lock first. One cable tie, there's a couple you can't see inside, and that's a cable tie as well. And that's it. My elapsed time was about 3 hours. And as I mentioned, the removal of the left side grip took an inordinate amount of time. Feel free to comment or not, subscribe or not, and otherwise I hope you found the video to be informative. There will be more videos with the Buell in the future. There will also be other bikes and a three-wheeler featured. There will also be poetry and short stories on this channel, as I'm consolidating everything to the Murder Sonnet channel. Remember to ride safe. And just for perspective, this is the stock bars versus the new bars, and you can see how much longer they are when you match them up.